Not only a sacred church for Christian believers in France, but the Notre Dame Cathedral also holds invaluable treasures, with the Crown of Thorns being one of the most prominent holy relics. 3 years ago, when the Notre Dame Cathedral caught on fire, Father Jean-Marc Fournier joined the Paris Fire Brigade to rescue precious artifacts from the flames that were destroying this ancient 900-year-old structure. One of the successful rescues by Fournier was the Crown of Thorns, believed to have been worn by Jesus Christ on the day of his crucifixion. This is considered the most precious relic of the Notre Dame Cathedral, originating from Jerusalem. It was brought to France by King Louis IX in 1239 and stored in the Sainte-Chapelle Monastery, which was built by the king to worship this holy relic. Currently, there are still about 70 thorns on the remaining part of the crown. And later generations have used gold to make it into a complete circular shape. According to the Bible, before Jesus was nailed to the cross, the Roman guards made a crown of thorns from wild plants growing around the Jerusalem temple, and put it on his head to inflict more pain and mock his authority. In the Gospel of Matthew, it is recorded that they put a staff in his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said, and put a crown of thorns on his head. The act of crowning Jesus with thorns and mocking him took place in the courtyard of the prison with about 50 cruel Roman soldiers. At first, the crowd of people rushed forward, but then thousands of Roman soldiers dispersed them. The laughter and mockery of the Roman soldiers encouraged the torturers of Jesus, causing him even more suffering. When a crown of thorns was placed on his head, the physical pain was undoubtedly something they could feel. However, the purpose of the Roman soldiers was not only to make Jesus bleed but also to humiliate him. Why did they do that? We need to go back a few days before Jesus was nailed to the cross. When Jesus entered Jerusalem with the praises of the welcoming crowd, many people threw their clothes on the road, and others cut branches and spread them on the road. This was a way of welcoming a king. Those branches were believed to be from the Euphorbia milli plant based on some legends. Researchers believe that the thorns on the crown were from the apple tree, which was commonly grown in Jerusalem. Ironically, these branches were used to welcome Jesus as a king when he entered Jerusalem. But on Friday the 13th, they were twisted into the crown of thorns that Jesus had to wear on his head. The crown of thorns represents more about mockery than physical pain. They took a symbol of royalty and dignity, a crown, and turned it into something painful and humiliating. For Christian believers, the crown of thorns is a significant symbol of the suffering of Christ more than any physical pain he endured. The crown of thorns that Jesus wore shows his extreme humility in accepting the exchange of the heavenly crown for a crown of thorns, which was painful, shameful, and humiliating. The crown of thorns is also a perfect embodiment of Christ's work on earth. With the crown of thorns and the cross that Jesus carried, he bore the weight of sin and death, taking the punishment for our sins so that we could be forgiven, reconciled, and redeemed. Furthermore, this crown of thorns also has another symbolic meaning. When Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit and were driven out of the Garden of Eden, they brought evil into the world. The book of Genesis states, "Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you." The crown of thorns has been depicted in various ways in art, from a rose stem with thorns to a hat with many sharp spikes. After appearing in the Gospels, it was not mentioned in any other works for over 400 years. The Catholic Encyclopedia of 1918 notes that the crown of thorns is not mentioned as a relic, even by Saint Helena, who traveled to Jerusalem to find the true cross of Christ in the early 4th century. The earliest mention of the crown of thorns is in 409 by Saint Paulinus of Nola, who honored the crown of thorns. In 1238, the crown of thorns appeared as part of an agreement proposed by Baldwin II, the Latin emperor of Byzantium, who needed money at the time. King Louis IX of France arranged to buy the crown of thorns from Baldwin, but in reality, the king received it from bank officials in Venice, who transferred the money to Baldwin. On August 19, 1239, the crown of thorns was transported to Paris as a holy relic. Louis, a devout king who later became a saint of France, removed his crown and robe to walk barefoot behind the relic as it was brought to the royal chapel, which was not yet completed at the time. The chapel was completed in 1248 and later housed all the relics of Christ's Passion that King Louis collected, including the Crown of Thorns, which is one of the most famous relics. During the time when the holy relics were kept at the Sainte-Chapelle, some thorns from the crown were removed to be given as gifts to French kings and important figures of the time. Queen Mary Stuart of Scotland also received a thorn, as she was once the Queen of France in 1559 to 1560. She had married King Francis II, who ruled for about a year. After Francis passed away, Mary returned to Scotland with the holy thorn. After she was executed, the thorn was given to Thomas Percy, the Queen's servant and the daughter of the King, Elizabeth Woodruff. Elizabeth later gave the thorn to a priest of the Order of the Holy Name. The priest gave it to Stonyhurst College, where it was kept. It was placed in the school's chapel during Holy Week. During the French Revolution in the late 18th century, many relics and treasures of the church were lost. However, Napoleon saved the Crown of Thorns and it was kept in the National Library until 1804. At that time, the Crown of Thorns was returned to the Archbishop of Paris. On August 10, 1806, the thorn was placed in the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. The crown is now complete with all the original spikes. The Crown of Thorns now consists of a bundle of reeds tied with golden thread representing the lost number of thorns. In 1896, a jeweler created a round crystal and gold case to hold the relic. Today, the Crown of Thorns is publicly displayed in the Notre Dame Cathedral every Friday during Lent, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and all day on Good Friday. At other times, the Crown of Thorns was kept in the church vault. The Knights of the Temple are entrusted with the protection of the relic. The Crown of Thorns is one of 3 priceless relics kept in the Notre Dame Cathedral, along with a piece of the true cross consisting of a nail used in the crucifixion of Jesus. Although it was intended to be a mockery, the Crown of Thorns is actually a powerful symbol of Jesus' sacrifice. The video ends here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and press the subscribe button to support me. Bye and see you again.